All right, this is one of my chill videos. If you're wondering what a chill video is, it's basically just the raw footage, very limited editing, primarily just to, I guess, take a flight. That's really it. But I kind of have an ulterior motive for this one, and actually, I've got two. So this is BelGeode, and we are in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We are at Fond du Lac Airport in Wisconsin, which is actually just south of the area that I would like to show you today, which is, of course, Wittman Regional Field, aka Oshkosh. So we're going to be flying this bad boy here, the Corsair. It always seems whenever I do these chill flights that I end up flying the Corsair. It is, after all, my favorite aircraft currently in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Of course, once the Tomcat gets here, that'll be another story. But as far as Warbirds go, there is nothing higher on my list than the Corsair. So we're going to be using this one. And the other reason why I want to use this one is Milviz has made some changes to the Corsair. So we recently got an update. They sent me the beta version to look over and test and whatnot. And the updates are now live. So there have been some marked improvements to this bird, but it is not without cost. There are some things that are currently, I guess, broken is probably the best way to put them. They're not functioning the way that they should, or the way that we have been used to them functioning. But overall, it's a pretty good improvement on an already good aircraft. So this is our bird for today. This is Candy 60. That's the call sign that we're going by. I forget the name of the squadron that this is a part of. I'll probably have it pop up on the bottom as I always do. But you can see our side number is 600, and you can also see we've got a nifty little redhead here. I know some might say she's a brunette, but trust me, she's an auburn-haired redhead. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. So we're going to hop in here and I'm going to show you some of the things that have changed about Corsair. Now, probably the most noticeable for any of you who are in VR is the overall scale of the Corsair. It's actually been reduced a little bit so that it's more in line with what the real aircraft was like. Now, I'm actually floating a little higher than I should be. Ideally, this is roughly how tall I am. I'd have to go down a little bit further. So right about there. That's how tall a Corsair actually is to me. And remember, I'm about 6 foot tall, so I can like barely reach the cockpit. So I'd have to climb up there and all that good jazz. Or I think there's little steps that pop out there. I don't see them here, but be that as it may, at least now the Corsair has a much better scale. It feels right. So, with that having been said, let's hop into the cockpit and I'll walk you through the new and improved start procedure. And then we'll go for the short flight north, well, technically northwest to Oshkosh. And then I'm going to show off that airport and I'll explain why I chose that particular airport to show off this time around. Okay, so we are inside the bird, and yep, it definitely looks like a Corsair. It definitely feels like a Corsair, same as always. It's much smaller now, so I don't feel like a midget sitting in a jumbo jet cockpit. This is so much better. You may notice that I've made a slight modification to mine. That is Bonnie Lee. Now, Bonnie was an amazing artist. She also was a redhead, and as you can see, she was pretty well endowed. The reason why I have her picture up there is Bonnie is no longer with us. Bonnie passed away in 2019, in October of 2019. And according to cause of death and everything that I had heard from her family, um, pretty much she died of COVID. All the symptoms and everything. This was before we even knew about COVID, before it became like an official pandemic and lockdown and all of that jazz. She was one of the first people I knew of who died basically because of that. Like all the symptoms matched up, the cause of death, everything. It was COVID. It's so wild. But she was such an amazing artist, and she is actually the lady who designed the alley design that I'm currently using from time to time. I'll pop that up right now. Alley was basically a self portrait from Bonnie, and I kind of begged her to make it into an official design and a t-shirt and so on and so forth. And she did. She definitely did. So every now and then you might see me on Three Grumpy Simmers wearing the redhead t-shirt and so on, or you might even see me at a convention at some point in time wearing it. That's designed by her. That's the lady who designed it, and it was meant to be a caricature of herself, but it has ultimately become the face of Allie. So that's what I call Bonnie, face of Allie. And I figured that no better way of honoring her than to keep her in my cockpit. So, Milviz, hate to break it to you, anytime you update this aircraft, I will be swapping textures because I got to have Bonnie on my dashboard. All right, so we got that out of the way. Now, this bird, as you notice, when we spawn in, the wings are up. That's new. Used to be the wings were down. Now the wings are up. And they actually fixed the little hinge doors too. I think it was that hinge door that was not working properly. Both of them now open and close properly. But in order to get started, we have to do things a little bit differently. So I'm going to run us through the process here. All right, first thing we're going to need is battery. So we've got our battery switch on. We can also get our radio on as well as our instruments. And I like flicking the actual switches up here as well. Still don't know if they're actually doing anything, but it feels nice to flick the switches, so we're okay with that. All right, we're supposed to have our call flaps open. However, if you notice, when we click the call flaps open, nothing's happening. Well, why is that? Why is nothing happening? Well, the reason for that is we now have to use the hydraulic hand pump. So 4 pumps should do it. Now, as we build up the hydraulic pressure, the flaps will also raise up. And if we were to use the wing sweep lever or the wing fold lever, it would unfold the wings. I'm going to forego unfolding the wings until after we've started up the bird. But to get the call flaps open, we're going to hit that 4 times. You can hear the click of the lever. It goes back into place, and sure enough, our call flaps are now open 100%. You'll also notice that the flaps are now level. All right, so that is out of the way. Let's get our lights on. So beacon to flash, recognition to steady and bright. And I'm also going to turn on, well, actually, you know what? I'll wait until after we start up to turn those lights on. Okay, so let's go over to this side here. Mixture knob should be at 0. Mixture knob is another thing that's changed. It used to be a very smooth transition from full to none. However, it now goes in stages. So it goes from off to, what do you call that? Lean or auto lean to auto rich to full rich. With this aircraft, you typically keep it in auto rich, so we're going to keep it there. Prop pitch, nothing's changed with that. Supercharger, of course, that has been put into effect. So once you get over, like, say, 12,000, 13,000 feet, you can put the supercharger into low blower or even high blower if you get a little bit higher up and, need that extra power. That's all modeled now, which is really cool. We won't be demonstrating that because we're not traveling far enough for me to go too high. But we will get our tanks on. So we'll set it to the reserve tank as we always do when we're getting ready to start up. And before we think about introducing fuel, one of the important things with the real life Corsair that has been modeled now with this Corsair is we have to turn the prop. So in order to clear out the engine, any residual oils and fluids and whatnot that are in the cylinders, we got to turn the prop. And we just basically click on the prop itself, and it'll be as if someone is hand spinning the prop through 3 cycles. They say, according to the manual, you should go through about 4 cycles. So I just hit it twice, and technically it's going through 6. That should be fine. That's really all you need to do to get everything cleared up. If you don't do that, it can mess up your engine start later. So keep that in mind. All right, so now that we have that done, let's go ahead and get a little bit of fuel introduced. So we're at auto rich. We'll get our fuel boost pump on. We'll prime it for about 4 seconds. Right about there is good. turn that off. We'll open up the starter because we're getting ready to do that. Let's get our magnetos on. There we go. Both are on. Make sure there's no one around. Shout clear prop. And when we hit the starter, we're probably going to want to also hit the fuel primer as the engine is catching. One thing I should do, though, is put my throttle to idle. So there we go. It's cracked open about a ½ inch. All right, let's clear prop. Wait for the prop to start spinning. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and hit the primer. It doesn't catch all the time, but it caught this time, so we're good to go. All right, primer can now go off. We'll cover up the starter, so we're good to go there. So when you're idling this thing, you got to idle it between about 700 and 900 RPM. So right about there is good. You'll notice it's slowly coming up. It will eventually go over 1,000, so you can pull back your throttle a little bit. So right about there should be good. And we'll let it do its thing to go ahead and get started. Now, as far as the cowl flaps, we're going to close those to 2/3 open, so roughly around 66%. Right about there is good. And that's pretty much where we want to keep it until after takeoff. Okay, now would be a good time to get these wings down. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's our wing sweep lever. Beautiful, beautiful. Each wing has its own speed to come down. And then, of course, the little hinge doors close, and that means we're pretty much set to go. All we need to do is lock our wings right there. Okay, so we're good to go. Now, we still need to trim this thing, and to remind you, you trim 661. What that means is the rudder, you need to go 6 degrees to the right. So right about there. Ailerons also 6 degrees to the right. This is a lot easier if you've got the little pop-up tooltips to tell you where exactly you are. And elevator 1 degree nose up. So right about there. All right, that's all that we need to do. As far as our fuel tank, we'll wait until after takeoff and then we'll switch it to main tanks. For now, we should be fine on reserve. And while the engine is coming up to snuff here, we'll go ahead and get these extra lights on because I really love having these on. They are a bit of a pain in the butt to hit all the switches because, again, the mouse cursor doesn't necessarily match up from eye to eye in VR. Still hasn't been fixed, but you know, it is what it is. All right, so there we go. We've got that all set. Okay. Now, one very important thing, and we're going to talk a little bad about this update here. One important thing that I need for Milviz to take a look at is the flap lever. So typically, since I have the Virpil CM3 throttle, I have a dedicated flap lever that is an axis. It's bound to the -100 to +100 flap axis inside the sim. It works with every other aircraft that I have. Now, it doesn't work with this one. If I pull my flap lever down, you'll notice the flap lever itself in the cockpit is not moving at all. But here's the weird part. Go outside the aircraft, and you'll see as I'm nudging the flap lever up and down, it's moving the physical flaps on the plane. And it gets even weirder. If I go all the way down to full flaps, you see what's happening, right? The flaps are coming back up. But if I just nudge it up a little bit, all of a sudden it's going back down. So it's a really weird thing. They broke something in the connectivity of the control that you use, the physical controls, versus what happens in the plane. So as a workaround, what I've done is I've set flaps increase and decrease to one of my 3-way toggles. So we've got 10 degrees flaps, 20, 30, 40, 50. And back up. We'll set it to 20 for takeoff. So right about there. So yeah, that's a little bit of a workaround. Ideally, I would love to have it back on my flap lever. So Milviz, if you can take a look at that and see if you can fix that, that would be awesome. All right. I think we're pretty much set to go. Looks like our engine temps are looking good. So I'm very pleased with that. The lights are all on with the exception of the landing light. We'll deal with that momentarily. But let's see if we can contact the... Well, actually, I don't think there's a tower here. No, I don't think there is. I do happen to know that the wind is coming out of the south, so we're going to want runway 18. So let's see where it's going to send us to taxi here.
Kilo Foxtrot Lima Delta Traffic Candy 60 is taxiing to runway 18.
I just noticed something here. My voice is currently set to my co-pilot. I don't have a co-pilot in this, so we are going to need to turn our co-pilot off. Alright, why am I moving here? I don't want that. No, stop that. Stop that. That's the co-pilot trying to move the aircraft, the invisible, non-existent co-pilot that we have. Well, we are just about ready to taxi, so now would be a good time to get the parking brakes off. We'll push forward, and we need to taxi down that way, so let me see what's the best way to do this. I guess we should probably turn to the right. Now, getting back to the trim for just a second here, the trim is a little bit off, and I'm finding that with this particular version of the Corsair, I need to have the auto rudder on to help me with takeoff. Before, I could just simply set trim to 661 as we normally would and take off with no problems, just a little bit of rudder dancing on the pedals there. Now, something's off. I don't know what they did with the numbers, but something feels off because this thing starts rolling all over the place like a madman. It's not pretty. It is not pretty at all. So Milviz, I do also need you to take a look at that. See what you can do with the trim because it was fine before. It is definitely not fine now. Alright, I can't see where I'm going, and doing S-turns on such a narrow taxiway sounds like a bad idea. So let's go to the outside view. Okay, so one thing that you're going to notice whenever we switch to the outside view, for some strange reason, this particular version of the Corsair does not remember where your flaps and gear are between the inside and the outside view. There's been a disconnect, because you noticed when I first switched over to the outside view, all of a sudden the flaps went up to the 20 position from the 50 position where they were when our aircraft was off. That's not right. There's a little bit of a disconnect there, and that is, again, something that they need to look at. And the whole reason that I'm pointing a lot of this stuff out is basically I want Milviz to pay attention to it, to fix it, because this is my absolute favorite Warbird, and I won't rest until it is perfect. You know what I'm saying? And I know they got it. I know they absolutely got it. Alright, now what is going on here? We are drifting all over the place, and I think we need to go to the right a little here, so let's go back in the cockpit and see what's happening. Oh, this kind of swings out to the right. That's what it is. So it wasn't my aircraft turning, it was the taxiway turning. Well, that makes sense now. Should have just stayed in here. Huh. Alright, so we're going to be taking off heading south from Fond du Lac, and once we get a fair amount of altitude, perhaps over the first layer of clouds there, we will turn around, head north to Oshkosh. Like I said, it's going to be a really short trip to get to Oshkosh, so don't you worry, we will get there before this video goes to the 1 hour mark. I just wanted to take the extra time to make you aware of a lot of the changes that are in this particular update of the Corsair. Whoa, that's one of them. All of a sudden it gets really sensitive if you hold down the brakes and turn. Alright, right about there should be good, so we'll put our parking brakes back on. Let's get our landing lights on, so that's the up position. Make sure everything else is kosher. Yep, looks like it is. Everything on this side looks good. The only other thing we need to do is switch our tanks, but we'll do that after takeoff. Okay, flaps 20. Alright, We're looking good. We're feeling good. Everything looks great. Let's contact everybody and tell them that we are departing. Let's tell them we're departing north, even though we're taking off to the south.
Kilo Foxtrot Lima Delta traffic Candy 60 taking off runway 18 north departure.
All right, sounds good to me. Okay, folks, so we're just about ready to go here. So we're going to take the parking brakes off. We'll take the active. I will probably forego the usual brakes down, throttles up, because we have a nice undulating runway here and we've got plenty of space for us to take off. Now just remember, I am cheating a little bit by having this auto rudder on, but if I don't do that, this takeoff is literally going to be a mess until Milviz sorts out whatever issues going on with the trim there. Alright, so we'll take the active here. I should go to the bottom view just to make sure I'm lined up before I put the tail wheel lock on. Yeah, let's do that. Notice the landing light just came on. That's exactly what I was talking about. Okay, we're pretty much where we need to be, so tail wheel lock is now on. We have confirmed that. So let's go ahead and pull up the power. We want 43 to 45 on the manifold pressure, so we'll get it up to 30. And I'm basically not holding the stick just yet, but I have my feet on the rudder pedals. 35. Manifold pressure at 40, 2700 RPM. Let's go to 45. Tail's coming up. Now we start doing the rudder tango. And of course we're gonna roll off to the side here. Okay, there we go. We're up. We almost went off the runway, but you know what? We're up. I am okay with that. All right, let's get our gear up. And we can start pulling our flaps up as well. So 10 degrees flaps, 0 degrees flaps. We'll need to start working on our trim. So we're gonna want to put our aileron trim back to its center position, the 0 position. Almost there. It takes forever for some strange reason. Elevator trim we'll put back down to 0. And our rudder trim, put that to 0 as well. So we should be pretty stable. Let's go ahead and close this out. That'll get rid of some of the noise there. Okay, now let's switch our tank. So to do that, we want our fuel pump on. Switch it to main, and then we can turn the fuel pump back off. Pretty simple. We'll also get our landing lights off. There we go. And we are climbing beautifully. Now, I've been telling you a lot of what I think are the bad things about this version of the Corsair, but I want to show you one of the really good things that they added, which is going to help us out on our flight here. If I click on this little table, ta-da! Look at what we've got there. We have a map. And it's really actually true to life, because in the actual Corsair, there was a tray that they would pull out where they would often, tape down like a map so they could help themselves navigate, basically. And I thought this was probably one of the most brilliant ideas that Milviz has ever come up with by putting this little map in there. And you can see it has a dual purpose too. If we click on loadout, you can only do this on the ground, by the way, with weight on the wheels, but you can add things now like rockets under the wings, and of course your drop tanks and bombs even, as well as you can fill up the cannons that are mounted in each wing, and you can fire them. Bear in mind, since this is Microsoft Flight Simulator, and of course there's no combat in Microsoft Flight Simulator, when you push the trigger and fire the guns, it will give you the muzzle flash and of course the sound, but there won't actually be any bullets or anything flying, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to close our call flap now. And we're also going to make a right-hand turn here. Begin heading north. Look at that beautiful flat Wisconsin countryside. Not too keen on the whole flat part, but I do like the fact that it's very green. So that is cool. I've tried to get the weather pretty much as close to what it is right now in real life today. This is, of course, a preset that I'm running, so that way I don't have like any surprises while I'm in the middle of the recording here. I know the last time I did one of these chilled videos, the one in Zanzibar, I did have it set to real weather and I had a thunderstorm rolling in. Trying to avoid any such entanglements this time around. All right, so we are closing in on 7,000 feet. I'm going to pull our prop pitch back because we really should have our prop pitch around 2550 RPM for a climb. And we can keep our manifold pressure between 38 and 43. We don't want to go any higher than that because that could cause a problem. All right. Now we do have a rudimentary autopilot, so I'm going to set that up really quick here. We'll see which way this aircraft goes. And all of a sudden she wants to go left. I wonder if I am by default heading to the VOR near Oshkosh. Not 100% certain. Cool. Looks like somebody's coming in at the airport that we just took off from. Or at least something that's transmitting on the same frequency. All right, but since we're pretty much up here, let's go to the outside view really quick while this bird gets us on the proper course. And we'll do our usual cinematic thing. All right, so no doubt you could see from the outside view that Oshkosh is coming up rather quickly. It's just past this, I'm assuming this is an NDB that's on here. But yeah, it's just past that. Now, the reason why I've chosen Oshkosh is I stumbled upon a free scenery. Now, before I say too much more about this free scenery, this scenery is by PilotEdge, or at least folks who are associated with PilotEdge, and it's really actually designed for use for anybody who's going to be participating in their sim venture event, where people will be basically flying all the real life approaches like the Fisk approach and so on into Oshkosh. However, the fact that they've made it free for the entire community to use means you can in fact actually download it. Just don't, share it or redistribute it or anything like that. It's really supposed to be used for PilotEdge, but this thing is too phenomenal looking for me to not show it to you. So that is why we are headed here today, and that is what I really want to show off. So even though this is a very short flight, after we land, I do plan on touring the grounds and just giving you an idea of the work that they put into this scenery package and why I feel it is so incredible. The link, of course, will be in the video description below, but like I said, don't go overboard on it. All right. Speaking of which, since we're getting awful close to where we need to be, how about we kill this autopilot here? And instantly we're going to start descending. And my plan is to go just to the north of Oshkosh, over by, I guess, where that lake is, and then we'll fly south. We know that we're going to need to land south, so we'll do a run and brake, kind of like a little carrier brake there. And we'll check out the scenery itself, which should be loading in right now, so you may notice some loss of FPS. And after we finish circling, we'll bring her in for a landing and then find a good parking spot. I should also mention regarding the scenery, there are two flavors of this scenery. There is the full scenery that's got planes everywhere. It looks exactly as it would look in the middle of the week that AirVenture takes place. Or you've got the light version, which has considerably less planes, but is still pretty awesome. I actually have the full version installed. Now I'm going to put our throttle to idle here. I also want to demonstrate something that I think Milviz needs to pay attention to. As you know, the Corsair was given a nickname of Whistling Death by the Japanese because when it was in a dive, you could distinctly hear a whistle that indicated it was diving in on you. Well, if I pull out the speed brakes, you can no longer hear that whistle. So as we're diving towards the deck, we're going to go back to the outside view and I'll illustrate why I say you can't hear it. Typically I don't talk in these outside views, but I'm trying to make a point here. With the gear down like this, and it's only the main gear by the way, whenever you do the dive brakes, we should hear a distinct whistling sound. If you look into my last few videos of the Corsair, whenever I've done this dive like this, you do hear a distinct whistling sound. It's now missing. So Milviz, I do need you to take a look at that because that's pretty much a trademark of the Corsair. Without that, yeah, it's no longer the whistling death. Alright, but we are quickly and safely down quite a few notches, so let's go ahead and get our speed brakes back up. And back there is Wittman Regional. So that is the airport that we're going to be landing at. Alright, now I deliberately went this way just to kind of give us enough time to slow down and whatnot and get below these clouds. Alright, we're going to ignore that guy and we are going to contact Oshkosh itself. Wittman Regional is number 5. Why am I pitching up so heavily here? Let's get our ATIS. There we go.
Airport information, Echo 2200 Zulu. Wind 068 at 17. Visibility 6. Sky condition 1,000 feet scattered, 5,600 feet scattered. Temperature 1 tree. Dew point 1 tree. Altimeter 29.902. ILS runway tree 6 in use. Landing and departing runway tree 6. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Echo.
You know, I think it might have changed my weather settings. because we were supposed to be coming in on 1.8, but now it says we're coming in on 3.6. Okay, well, that is not going to hinder us any because we're still going to do our little flyby on the airport there. So let's see if we can get back down. I do have this thing trimmed down, right? Yeah, everything's at 0 trim. You see what I mean about the trim being off, though? We shouldn't have been ballooning up like that. But we'll go ahead and bring her down to the deck. I believe that pattern altitude around this airport is around 1,800 feet, between 1,800 and 2,000. So as long as we stay above that, we should be good. I neglected to set my altimeter, so let me do that really quick here. Okay, it looks like we're set. All right, so we are currently on the northern side of the airport, and you can't really see anything too impressive just yet, but just you wait. It's all going to come into being in a moment here. So let's see, we are at 27, 26, 25. You can already see the green tent buildings there. There's our runway, there's runway 36, and as we get a little bit closer, now we can really start to see everything pop in. So let's take a quick look at that there. There you can see everything is starting to spawn in. So we've got the north parking area, we've got the north camping area, we've got Warbird Alley, which more than likely is where we're going to end up parking today. We've got the experimental area and the west parking. There's Boeing Plaza, where all the big birds live. And then we've got the ultralights on the southern side of the airport. Right about there, see that little diagonal runway, that grass runway? That's the ultralight parking. And there's more airplane parking right there, and airplane camping, I should add. So we're gonna go around this way. Make sure we're not getting in the way of traffic. I do see some aircraft around here, but I'm not sure if they're AI or if they're actual players. Let me get some throttle back up here. So yeah, welcome to Wittman Regional Field. This is Oshkosh, and this is set up exactly the way that EAA AirVenture would be. So you've got your STOL competitions, your short takeoff and landings, right at the airfield where my wing is right now. And then, of course, you've got the main runways with their trademark dots. So you can see we've got the purple dot, yellow dot, red square, pink dot, and there should be a blue dot coming up. There it is. And then, of course, on the cross runway, runways 9 and 27, which go along the northern side, we've got the orange dot, the green dot, and the white dot. And that's where the jets usually park. And then, of course, everybody else who brought their own private planes in and set up their tents and whatnot, they usually camp out right over this side. And then we've got Pioneer Field. You can see there's already a blimp over there, so that's pretty cool. I've never seen that before. Pioneer Field happens to have a bunch of historic birds around there as well, and oftentimes you'll find helicopters like Robinson R-22s and so on right around there, but you can see it's another grass strip there. So very, very in-depth, very well done. The folks that put this together really knew what they were doing. This is pretty much exactly what Oshkosh looks like at this time of the year. And I say that with a caveat that I've never actually been there in real life. It's on my bucket list. It's always been on my bucket list. Hopefully one of these years I'll be able to make it there. Obviously it won't be this year. But traditionally on this channel, every year around this time, I do an Oshkosh video where I pretty much put on a one-man air show with 3 or 4 aircraft of my choice. And it's all held at what I consider to be the best looking airport for that given sim for that particular year. So one year I might have done FSX, another year I might have done X-Plane 10, another year X-Plane 11. This year we're doing Microsoft Flight Simulator. And thank you so much, PilotEdge, for putting the work into this. This is a scenery worthy of Oshkosh. And I know that you really intended it for, you know, your own purposes, but this This is basically a gift to the community here that I think everybody can benefit from. So the reason why I flew us over here is you see that little bay area, that little inlet. If you look closely, you'll see a whole bunch of RVs camping right there. And if you look in the water, you see a whole bunch of float planes. This is the seaplane base. This is the seaplane portion of Oshkosh. So everything you see there is replicating what would be there in real life. That's where you bring your float plane in and, you park it there. And then, of course, you can always drive over to Oshkosh. Or if you're feeling froggy or amphibious enough, you can fly your float plane over to Oshkosh. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, so we're going to get ready to land. So let's head over to the northern side of the airport here. We'll try to get out of the way of traffic. And we'll see if we can bring this bird in for a landing. I'm going to go to the outside view really quick as we take a look at the city ahead of us. All right, so it's a good thing everything is all in a grid here. That'll make life a ton easier for us as far as coming in. So what we'll do is we'll go around the airport, we'll follow that highway south, and then we'll turn around and come in. So let's see, first of all, we're going to want to call for clearance to land, and I'm going to need to lower my speed so I can get my gear down. So let's do that. We want full stop landing.
Oshkosh Tower Candy 60 is 1 mile northwest, 2,000 feet with echo to land.
We'll stay around 2,000.
Candy 60 Oshkosh Tower. Altimeter 29.90 to wind 06, 8 at 17. Enter left traffic, runway 36.
All right, will do.
Enter left downwind runway 36 Candy 60.
All right, let's get our gear down. And we can also start putting our flaps down. So we are at flaps 3. I'm going to trim us up just a touch here. Give it some power. We'll put the manifold pressure back up to about 30-ish. I think we can close our little tray now, but it's very handy to have that there. I love that thing. That's probably the best thing that Milviz has put in this bird. All right, let's get our landing lights back on. Okay, everything's looking good. Now, we probably do not necessarily need to set the trim back, but I am typically in the habit of so doing. So we're going to set that up really quick as we're coming down.
Candy 60 wind 06, 8 at 17. Clear to land runway 36.
All right, lady, thank you.
Clear to land runway 36 Candy 60.
All right, and let's set our rudder trim really quick here. There we go. All right, so that should be good. We should handle our torque. And let's turn ourselves around, bring ourselves in. So we are at 2,000 right now, so we're going to want to come down considerably. Now, they did say the wind was out of the east almost. I'm pretty sure she said the wind was like 60 something. Why aren't we landing on a crosswind runway then? We should be landing on runway 9. This could get interesting, folks. I'm not going to lie, this landing could get interesting. But I'm going to try and see if I can keep us as close to stall speed as possible, so that way when we slow down, we shouldn't have too many issues. Let's see if we can get down to the deck here. I don't see any traffic coming in, so that's at least good. Alright, speed is coming down to about 100 knots. We're a little high on glide slope, but we're making a nice gentle turn to bring her in. There we go. Now we're on glide slope. Let's give it some power. And we'll keep swinging her around. Okay, so we're at least lined up. That's a good start. We're a little low on glide slope, but that'll be all right. I do notice that all the aircraft are spawning back in again. That's a Microsoft Flight Simulator thing where things disappear after a certain distance. I kind of hope they will fix that at some point in time, because it does cause some FPS loss when I'm waiting for everything to spawn in. Alright, we are just about here. We're going to pretend they told us to come in at the purple dot. So there's the purple dot up ahead. I'm probably going to end up overshooting it. Alright, purple dot. We're down. A little bouncy. Definitely a little bouncy. Oh boy. Oh boy. We're going off the runway. I was afraid of that.
Candy 60 contact ground on 132.3.
Well, we're on the taxiway now. I hope we didn't take out any of them guys. I think we did. Oops. Okay. Well, moral of the story is take your tail wheel thingy off. Tail wheel lock. Alright, but we are down.
Please acknowledge.
Oh, this lady again. Alright, lady. Bye.
Going to 1 tree, 2 decimal tree, Candy 60.
Alright, so not gonna lie, folks, that was probably my worst landing in this aircraft. And I don't even think I can blame that one on Milviz and the trim and all of that stuff. No, that's just me sucking right now. But welcome to Oshkosh. So we just passed Boeing Plaza, and we passed where all the ultralights and whatnot are parked, and the general aviation and so on. We're heading for Warbird Alley. That's where I'm going to pull this bird in, and you can already start to see some of the Warbirds up ahead. So that'll kind of give you an idea where we're going. We got our flaps up. And I think we can put it back on reserve tank. So fuel pump on. Back to reserve. Fuel pump off. And let's go ahead and get our landing lights off while we're at it. Alright, so this is our final destination for the day. This is Warbird Alley. So we're going to need to find a pretty good spot here to come in and park. Okay, there's a taxiway on that side, so yeah, we should be able to just pull in there. Okay, let's go to the outside view as we work our way into Warbird Alley. Oh yeah, I think I have found my home. This is the perfect spot for me. Hey, look, there's some P-38s there. P-38 is my absolute second favorite Warbird. My third favorite is also there. Look, the P-40. So yeah, this Corsair belongs over there. All right, let's see if we can find a good parking spot. I'm thinking You know what? I'm thinking right next to those two P-38s. So let's see. Can we turn our way in here? Should be fine. Mind your head, boys. Mind your head. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Look at that. P-40s. Looks almost as good as Big Radial's version, which I do need to fly that again. Wait, is that a Stuka? Holy crap, there's even a Stuka here. Wow. And we got some Buckeyes over there. We're going to park right next to this P-38. Right about there. Hey, look at that. There's even TBM Avengers. Or maybe they're TBF Avengers. One of the two. All right, parking brakes on. And you know what? I'm going to do something rare here. I'm actually going to stand up while in VR. Because I want to get a better look at this. Oh, I have no idea which Warbird that is. I really don't know. Is that an A1? Not quite sure. It does look like a dive bomber or something, but I'm drawing a blank right now. That's a Buckeye, I think. And there's some T6s around here. T6 Texans. And then, of course, there's the Avenger. P-38, looking sweet as always. P-40s, Stuka. Not sure what that is down there. Looks nice, though. And on the other side are the bombers. Ooh, so we're going to want to check that out, too. But yeah, this right here, this is pretty much exactly what Oshkosh is supposed to look like. Only thing that's missing is a lot more people. But this feels cool. If I ever make it to Oshkosh, I'm sure I'm going to have deja vu actually being here. But this feels like it. This feels like I'm actually here. All right, I'm going to sit down. We'll turn our aircraft off. Okay, so there we go. Probably should have folded the wings, huh? This will drain the rest of the hydraulic fluid as we're doing that. But yeah, there we go. All right, so let's turn that off. Turn all of these off. Sorry, this might take a little while here. And we'll get these lights off. Okay, there we go. I noticed we didn't put on our landing lights, but you know what? That's all right. I'm pretty sure they understood that we were coming in to land. Okay, so there we go. Alrighty, Bonnie, thank you for the good luck, as always. So, before we end this video, how about I take you on a little tour around Oshkosh? So to do this, we'll go into the drone camera mode. And this is not the drone camera mode, by the way, but at least it gives you an idea of the grass that's around us there. That's pretty cool. This is the drone camera mode. So we're set up right there. And let me see if I'm still at the height that I'm supposed to be. Yep, that's about my height, 6 foot. Okay. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We'll start here in Warbird Alley. So we'll start over by this Stuka here. That's so cool. It's not that often that you see German models, German or Japanese models. Usually you see American models. But that's pretty cool. We got the P-40s there. Definitely look like Harvards, T6 Texans. And that's cool too. I want to take a look at the bombers because I think I see my 2 favorite bombers over there as well. What are your favorite bombers? Why don't you chime in the comments if you have any favorite bombers and fighters from World War II? But yeah, it looks like we've got, what is this, a Marauder, I think, maybe, possibly. Yeah, it's either Marauder or an A-20. It might be a Marauder. It looks like a Marauder. I could be wrong, though. Here's one of my 2 favorite bombers. This is the B-24 Liberator. Look at that monster. I love the shape of this. I really need for some developer to come up with a version of this for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it better be study level too. I'm just saying. We got a Beech 18 over here. We got another P-38. And what is this behind me? Holy crap, it's my other favorite bomber, B-25 Mitchell. Oh, yeah, if I were a bomber pilot in World War II, this would have been the one that I would really, really want to fly. Little bit of irony. A lot of B-25 Mitchell pilots went deaf in their left ear. I'm already deaf in my left ear, so I'm a natural for it. Love it. All right. We've got, looks like some Ford tri-motors over here. And of course, the venerable B-17. I guess that's like my third favorite bomber. It's not quite the same feeling for me as the Liberator and the Mitchell. Those are the ones that really get me. So let's go this way. So we've got some Navy birds here. It looks like we've got a Scooter, aka Skyhawk A4, and of course a Phantom, the venerable F4 Phantom. We've got what appears to be a Hawkeye, except it's missing its radar dish, and the model looks horrible. Wow. Not sure how that one got past inspection, but okay. At least these guys look good. Same for that Hercules over there, that C-130. That kind of looks a little out of place there. Model on that is a bit bad. It's a bit bad. The DC-3s look nice, though. And the Mitchells back there. They all look nice. Oh, here's one for Sergio. We've got the Chinook. Looks a little shiny to me, but yeah, definitely looks like a Chinook. That's kind of cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even though I'm griping a little bit about the models here, I'm really blown away by the amount of work that they put into this to get all of these hundreds of aircraft modeled and placed here on Wittman Field is definitely an achievement. So I got to give them props for that. And I don't want to rail too harshly on their modeling skills because a lot of these do look really freaking good. I mean, look at that Black Hawk. The interior is even fleshed out. All right, so these are the crossed runways here where the fire trucks usually hang out. So we'll swing over this way. The jets are usually parked on that side. We're not going to really explore that because there's probably not much to see. I didn't notice any fighter jets like the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds parked there, so we're going to bypass a lot of that stuff. But typically, a lot of the military birds will end up parking around that neck of the woods. But we can see on the northern side here, we've got the northern camping. And again, this is one of those things that's basically a hallmark of Oshkosh. You and whoever it is that you're flying with, you fly your plane in, you land, you get a parking spot over here, you come out, you set up your tent, and you literally camp out here all week long just watching air shows. That's why if you are any kind of aviation or air show lover, this is the mecca for air shows. It really doesn't get much better than this. This is the ultimate air show in the United States, at least. I know that we have stuff like Farnborough and so on in other parts of the world. There's a couple of Stearmans over there too, I just noticed. But yeah, look at that. If I put myself at the proper height, which should be right about there, we'll use a Cessna wing as a guide because I know that my head will bump into a Cessna wing. So as long as I'm like yay high, that's pretty accurate. But yeah, look at that. So through my eyes right now, through VR, with the exception of the planes that keep dipping in the ground, you can actually get a pretty good idea of what it would feel like to be on the ground here at Wittman. I gotta admit, that's pretty cool. That is really cool. And this is exactly why Oshkosh is on my bucket list. I would love to be able to fly in here with somebody, preferably their plane, because of course I don't have a pilot's license or a plane. But yeah, I'd love to be able to camp out with you. That would be so cool. So unbelievably cool. All right, let's zip over to the southern part of the airport. So once again, we'll take off, virtually speaking, and we'll keep heading south here. I'm going to increase our movement speed So once again, passing Warbird Alley and Fighter Town. And look at that. PilotEdge has their own tent. Of course they have their own tent. Were you surprised? Of course not. There's a representation of Draco. Draco unfortunately crashed. I don't know if it's been rebuilt as of yet. But yeah, we've got the home built section. So everybody with their kit built planes, they all bring them in here. I don't see any Rutan Long EZs, and I do of course have Dino's version, so we'll have to bring that in. Oh, now that's hilarious. Flight Chops. Flight Chops has his own booth in Oshkosh. So you know you've made it when you've got your own booth at Oshkosh. And sure enough, Flight Chops. I met him in Seattle. Really cool guy. Really cool guy. All right, so let's see if there's any other familiar names that we might notice. That almost looks like a Shrike Commander there. Could be. That was Bob Hoover's plane. All right, so this area that we are at right now, this is called Boeing Plaza for obvious reasons. As soon as I rotate the camera around here. So you can see we have what I think is supposed to be a KC-135 tanker. That's, of course, a 787. And the Queen of the Sky is a 747. And there's even an Apache. Yeah, Apache is Boeing too, if I remember correctly. And there is a Lockheed Galaxy, I believe this is supposed to be. Again, the model's not all that great. It seems to be getting better as we get closer, but yeah, it's still not quite there. Still not quite there. But it's a pretty good representation of what is normally sitting here in Boeing Plaza. This is pretty much what it's like, right down to the B-17. So yeah, that was a good thing on their part. I'm bouncing us up here because I want to show you where the car parking is and the RV parking. So if you don't have your own plane, but you want to camp there in like an RV, you can actually park your RV over this side here. So that's kind of cool. And there's the blimp over by Pioneer Field. You know what? Let's go check Pioneer Field out and see if they actually have any helicopter models there, because that's usually where the helicopters park, one of the two places. Hey, look at that. I don't know if Sergio is watching this video, but looky here. It is officially accurate. We have Robinson R-44s at Pioneer Field at Oshkosh. This is very accurate. This is where they park. So that's pretty cool. We're going to zip over to the southern side of the airport really quick because the last place that I want to show you before we call this video done is, of course, the ultralight area. Now, I had mentioned that before, what I used to do is I used to do like a yearly Oshkosh video. Actually, I was pretty much one of the only people who was doing this sort of thing for flight simming. It's only been in the last couple of years that everybody and their brothers decided to get into doing Oshkosh videos for flight sim. But I was one of the first people that was doing that. Hey, look at that. Hot air balloons just literally materialized out of nowhere. That's pretty cool, too. We've got some more experimentals over here, but we are going to this side. All right, this is what we're looking for. This is the Stoll Field. So when they have the short takeoff and landing competition here, which I believe is on several days of the event, remember this event is like a week long. This is where everybody comes, and this is where they practice and, of course, compete in their little Stoll competition. So you can see the field is really short. That's it. That's all that you've got. So you better be on your P's and Q's, and you better know how to fly your little Stoll plane in here. Lots of Cubs and Cessnas and all kinds of good stuff. And then, of course, there's weird little birds like the CTSL and the Mudry, Cap 2, the Zlin, all of that stuff. This is where you'll find a lot of that stuff going on. So pretty cool. So with this scenery package that PilotEdge has created here, you actually get multiple airports. You get the airport that we took off from, you get this main airport, Wittman Field, and of course you get all the smaller additional airports. So you get the Stoll Field right there, and you get Pioneer Field on that side. All of that comes with this, and the price is free. That's just so awesome. And like I said, I don't know if they actually intended for the entire flight sim community to use it or if they just wanted it to be used with their little event that they're having, the sim venture. But if you are a member of PilotEdge or if you're planning on being a member of PilotEdge, maybe you can let them know that I gave them some free advertising here. Join up with them and fly the Fisk approach and come in to Oshkosh. But I think I've shown you enough for right now. So, yeah, pretty awesome stuff. Links in the video description below. Hopefully, I won't get in trouble for sharing it, but this is the kind of stuff that I live for. Is Oshkosh. One day, I may actually make it there in real life, but for now, I can truly say this is the closest that I'm going to get. So, thank you for watching. You know what to do if you enjoyed the video. Leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. All that good jazz. This is BelGeode. And we're signing out from another chill video. We'll see you soon. Ciao.